The last object I've chosen to talk about in this series about metal is an object that I really love. And when you talk about art, it helps to talk about things you love. This is the American artist Roni in the late 80s, making an object which is placed on the floor. An object which therefore, first of all, speaks in human dimension, speaks in human terms. When you look at it, you look down. Looking down at something, which is unusual in sculpture, looking down at something, again, encourages you to think in an interesting way about your relationship to art. Because very often we look up. We look across or we look up. That immediately sets up a kind of relationship between us and the object, doesn't it? Here when we look down, that sort of shifts things. It's part of our world, it's on the floor, and it's something we have to look down at to see. We have to look down at it to see it, we have to look down at it to read it, because it's got text. And you can see here that the text is embedded into the metal. That's aluminium, industrial metal. Aluminium, not the most beautiful metal, perhaps. Like it's been milled in a particular kind of way, so it's really uninviting, perhaps in some ways. It doesn't shout to you. It's not meant to shout. It's quite humble in some ways. And we have the lettering that runs around two of the edges. Usually, the way it's installed is that the writing is around the back as you enter the room. So when you enter the room, you see this little slab on the floor. I mean, Roni Horn's art is not extrovert. She's not a Damien Hirst. She's not a Jeff Koons. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a different tone. Her tone is reduced, it's subtle, it's interior, it's quiet, it's meditative. You go around the other edge of this and you kneel down or bend down or crouch down and you read this fantastic line, "To see a landscape as it is when I am not there." That is a line from the philosopher Simone Weil. It's a phrase that's been taken out of her writings. It's as though the text has been removed from a book and made solid, placed on the ground so that it can become a thought. It's what a thought looks like on the floor in front of you. What a brilliant thing to think about. Now, there is no landscape to see. So when you see the text, you're also not seeing a landscape. But the landscape exists in your mind. Roni Horn is interested in this idea, as all artists are, I suppose, that works of art can have a life that goes beyond their physical dimensions in the gallery space, goes beyond that and becomes something you carry around with you. I think when I first saw her work, which uses, I mean, it's not all like this, she's very diverse in terms of what she does, but her work where she uses bits of text, the lines she uses stayed with me for a really long time. And it was something to do with the fact that not that they were read on a page, but that they were somehow physically in my space. Like what a three-dimensional thought actually looks like. So I think that's what the work is doing. The fact it's metal, industrial metal, is a way for me of creating that sense of weight, of implied weight. Like the thought itself occupies space and it leaves a certain kind of impression on those floorboards, and it's like there, it's very massy. That's how I feel about it, that it's really, really present. It's something that's from, and the thought itself is of course about a lack of mass, a lack of presence. So it operates on this beautiful kind of play between the present and the absence, between the heavy and the light, between the written and the made. All those things in play at all the same time. So it's a modest work in some ways, but at the same time, it could lead on to it could sort of snowball in your mind to be about anything. And that is, I think, the value of any great work of art.